Peoria Planning and Zoning Commission. The Planning and Zoning Commission is composed of volunteer citizens appointed by the City Council. The Commission is the designated hearing body for a range of land use applications, including general plan amendments, rezones, conditional use permits, and amendments to the zoning code. Upon recommendation by the Commission, general plan amendments, rezones, and zoning code amendments proceed forward to the Peoria City Council for final action. For conditional use permits, the Commission will make a final decision subject to appeal. All hearings are conducted in accordance with the rules for procedure requirements to allow an impartial and efficient hearing, and all Commission meetings are open to the public under the Arizona Open Meeting Law. Each case will be called in the order in which it appears on the agenda unless otherwise announced during the meeting. Once called, City staff will give a presentation of the case, followed by a presentation from the applicant if they so desire. After the applicant's presentation, members of the public who have submitted a speaker's request form will be called to speak by the Commission Chair. The applicant may be called to provide additional information, clarification, or a rebuttal. The Commission will discuss the case, may ask additional questions, and take action. Any member of the public wishing to speak must complete a speaker's request form and hand it to the planning assistant at the end of the dais. When speaking, please limit your comments to a maximum of 3 minutes and try not to repeat statements already made by others. We welcome your comments, and as fellow citizens of Peoria, we thank you in advance for your participation.
Good evening. Welcome to the September 19th, 2024 Peoria Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. I will start with a quick roll call of the commission. Chair is present. Vice Chair Waitman-Powell.
Present.
Secretary Nelson.
Present.
Commissioner Cottrell.
Present.
Commissioner Konkowski on the phone.
Yes. Here.
Commissioner Myers.
Present.
Commissioner Villasenor.
Present.
Great, thank you. Full attendance, thank you. So I just want to make a quick last call for speaker request forms. I have several of them. I have a couple that don't label what case they want to speak on, or if it's just open to the open discussion at the end of the meeting. Mr. Molina, is there a specific case that you wanted to speak on? Okay, that's item 4R. Okay. And Paul's?
Yeah, Z2404 and Z2403.
Okay. So both. Great. Okay. 4. Okay. 3. 4, 3, 3. Okay. All right. Make sure I got this. Great. All right, next item, first item on the agenda is a consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature and have been previously reviewed by the commission and will be enacted with one motion. 2 items on there. One is disposition of absence from the prior meeting, Commissioner Villasenor, from the September 5th meeting, and item 2C, the minutes from the September 5th, 2024 meeting as well. Any commissioners have any questions, or do I have a motion on the consent?
Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
Chair, I'll second.
I have a second, motion and a second. Commissioners, please vote. Oh, Commissioner Konkowski, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, and the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Now we will move on to regular agenda. First item of new business, item 3R, North Peoria Gateway, NPG, the initial zoning, case Z24-04. I guess we will start with staff and your presentation, please. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair, members of Commission. I will be doing the introductions for both of these items this evening. Let me start it off by doing introductions. For those who don't know me, I am Lori Deaver, Deputy Director of the Planning Department. And if you will recall, or have not been able to get it out of your memory, Chris and I have been in front of you a fair number of times this particular year talking about the major general plan cycle. And North Peoria Gateway has been a part of that conversation the entire time. So with the successful adoption of the general plan amendments by council this past Tuesday, both the city and the state land department are here this evening to take the next step in the process, and that is to entitle the NPG property. However, before Mike Faust joins Cody Gleason in getting into the specifics of the rezoning case known as NPG, it is important to note that 460 acres of the 1,600 acres that comprise NPG is currently within Maricopa County's jurisdiction. In order for those 460 acres to be placed under Peoria's authority, annexation of the land needs to occur, and that application is slated for council's consideration next month. So what you have in front of you as the first item this evening is a staff-initiated request to establish initial zoning, or translational zoning on those 460 acres, should council approve the annexation request. In terms of year-to-date, the commission has seen an uptick on these type of initial zoning requests. However, it's always good to acknowledge that they are not like other rezoning applications. Why do I say that? It is a state-mandated process that obligates the city to assign comparable, or what we call equivalent zoning, within 6 months of bringing that property into our city limits. Additionally, there are strict rules in how you assign city zoning to a property, which you'll hear more about from Cody in a minute. And because it is so regulated by state law, you will often hear the planners refer to this as a perfunctory process. So if you will recall at the last conversation that we had about initial zoning, the question came up. So what happens if an annexation is not approved by council? The answer is that land could still be developed within the county under their development standards, which are admittedly very different than Peoria's. That same answer holds true in this case as well. So with that said, the question to annex the 460 acres is reserved for council to decide. What is before commission tonight under 3R is whether we as planners did our homework correctly in translating what is allowed in the county to what is allowed in the city. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Cody.
Thank you, Ms. Deaver. I think we should do introductions to all the cases now because she covered the important stuff. So my name is Cody Gleason. I'm the planning manager with the city of Peoria. As Lori had referenced, the case that we're talking about right now is the initial zoning for what's referred to as North Peoria Gateway. And we'll get into the specifics of the separate case, the rezoning effort, in the subsequent presentation, but this case before you right now is for that initial zoning. So as Lori had referenced, this is a mandate by state statute that calls for cities upon annexation of a property into the city to designate that initial zoning. And what that initial zoning needs to be, according to state statute, is a translational zoning district, meaning whatever that city has as a comparison to the county district, that's what it should be going forward in the city. So because that is mandated by statute, the city is the applicant on this initial zoning case, because really we're looking to carry forward our comparable standards in regards to what is currently in existence in the county. So what you see on the map here is about 460 acres hatched in blue. That is the area of the initial zoning that we're referring to here. The owner of the property is the Arizona State Trust land, managed by the Arizona State Land Department. So you'll see the reference on there, North Peoria Gateway with a red boundary. That is just to give you a reference to that subsequent case that we're talking about. This initial zoning is simply for that blue hatched area. So as Lori had referenced, the annexation will be going forward to City Council on October 15th. But what we're looking to do here is get a recommendation from you for City Council for the initial zoning. So just to give an idea of kind of how the process falls, as I referenced, those state statutes provide us guidance as far as what the procedures are for annexation and initial zoning. And as a result of that annexation, we have to go forward with these procedures within 6 months of the annexation. What we usually try and do is align that so that the initial zoning is heard on the same night of the council action for annexation. That way, as soon as it's annexed into the city, the next agenda item is establishing what that initial zoning is, so that we don't have a gap and we have to go through and research what the county standards are versus the comparable city zoning district. So what you see here is simply just a reference to what the existing zoning is within that area that's intended to be annexed. And then the comparable zoning district currently exists on the remainder of what we're calling North Peoria Gateway. So that 460 acres currently contains the RU43 or rural residential zoning designation within Maricopa County. And what we're looking to do is translate that to the city's Suburban Ranch 43 or SR 43 zoning district. It's about the least intense zoning district we have within the city. It essentially means, for all intents and purposes, 1 acre residential lots. With initial zoning cases, they're a little bit different than rezoning efforts with respect to public outreach. We still provide the same level of notification when it comes to the notice of hearing. There's still a sign posted on site. We still post an ad in the paper. We still send out a postcard within the required distance, in this case, a 1/4 mile from that 460 acres. The difference is no neighborhood meetings required. Again, the reasoning behind that is the intent is to not provide anything more intense than what's contemplated currently within the county. The city did not receive any public comment regarding this initial zoning case. As a result, staff finds that the proposed initial zoning complies with state statute mandates and aligns with the RU43 zoning district within the county and the comparable SR 43 zoning district that we're calling for here with this case. As a result, staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend approval to the City Council of case Z24-04, subject to the conditions of approval in Exhibit 1.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Gleason. Commissioners, I'll ask if you guys have any questions or comments for staff. To me, this looks like incredibly valuable commercial real estate along a major arterial and a freeway. Sounds like it's going to get developed, whether we want the tax revenue coming to the city of Peoria or the county. That's why we wouldn't do this, right?
Chair, commission members, great point for the next item that we have on the agenda, where we will talk about the rezoning effort and what that looks like along the freeway frontage. In this case, it would be simply for that SR 43 designation.
Okay. Any commissioners have any questions? Okay. I will open the public comment on this item. We have a couple of speaker request forms for this item. We'll start with Homer Landerth. Just remind you have 3 minutes, please, sir.
This is sort of some ancillary effect. At the general meeting, July 18th, there was a discussion of the amendments, and Laura Page noted that there were 3 of the amendments that did not meet requirements. The requirements that it had to deal with was that the amendment does not adversely impact the community. It will not affect the livability and the safety of the area, and it benefits a particular landowner. In this case, she's entered the Arizona State Land Trust. The reason to come from this is that it was it was given during the community input in the July 18 meeting, so therefore it wasn't acted on. All the board had to do was basically listen. However, there was no subsequent action to those items. It wasn't in the minutes of the July 18 meeting, and I would have expected that it would be in the agenda of the follow-on meeting, which was 3 September, something like that. And it wasn't in the agenda of that meeting. So the discussion is, were her complaints taken care of? Were they dealt with? Were the 3 things that I just read, were they considered in what you said here? It's just kind of a global chunk of land that the problem has been written against. Anyway, that's all. I'm done.
Thank you. Paul Pals? If you can just state your name and address for the record, please.
Sure, my name is Paul Pauls. I'm at 9133 West Andrea in Peoria. First of all, I'd like to say good evening to the commission and to the staff, and thank you for the opportunity to express my full support of the proposed North Peoria Gateway, zoning Z24, and I'm going to speak a little bit to Z2403 as well. I'm sorry, 24-4 and 24-3.
If you don't mind, if you can just keep it to item 3, and then we can invite you back up for item 4. if that's okay.
Oh, you mean 4?
We're on 4, I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay, just want to make sure.
Yep,
And-
sorry.
And basically, I'm talking more, I'd like to address the opportunity in general. West Valley, and in particular Peoria, is a rapidly growing area, creating demand and opportunity for new business growth. The original investment in the Loop 303 set the foundation and the expectations for the area to capture jobs and economic development. But the rapid growth of North Phoenix, as well as the Taiwan Semiconductor, is accelerating that timeline considerably. Peoria has the opportunity right now to capitalize on these favorable dynamics by leveraging some of the most desirable land in the Northwest Valley. This brings in highly sought-after retail and restaurant opportunities, as well as diversifying the city's economic base. Accessibility to the Loop 303 corridor makes this North Peoria Gateway a prime location for businesses to locate, especially given its proximity to Peoria's flagship master plan community, Vistancia. In short, businesses recognize Peoria's reputation for quality, and they see untapped potential in this area. Because of these factors, businesses want to be a part of growth, but none of this growth is possible without land. That is why the continued collaboration with the Arizona State Land Trust is critical. And right now, without unlocking State Land Trust land, the total inventory of commercial business in this area is significantly limited. The absence of available land prevents the city from attracting desirable businesses to our community. At 1,600 acres, there are a lot of potential with this project. Given the scale of the North Peoria Gateway, the commercial land uses have been thoughtfully laid out to provide ample buffers from existing residential areas, while at the same time affording a number of commercial and retail opportunities. These retail experiences could range from startup entrepreneurs to neighborhood shops with convenient access to local goods and services. The city of Peoria wants these, and the residents of the city of Peoria have been asking for this. Jobs closer to home, more commercial, more upscale retail, more restaurant options, resulting in less commuting time, less pollution, and sales tax staying in our neighborhood. Finally, this would also generate revenue for the state's education fund, principally K through 12. With our state ranking, I believe 50th right now, I think that these dollars could really be used wisely. I thank the commission for your wise, and I do mean this from the bottom of my heart, your conscientious development of Peoria, and I hope that you will vote yes to the potential that this zoning provides.
Thank you. Paul Smith, another Paul. Pardon me? Got it. Item 4R, okay. Barbara Wiley.
I just found out about this, and I don't live there, but I have a granddaughter and her husband who do. She's working, she's a nurse, and he's a fireman. And they have an acre and a half, 2 acres, and they bought it probably 2 years ago and plan to build. Now the house, they've got a little house that was built in 1971. The house next door to them just sold for $1.5 million. Now I heard someone say that this property should go commercial. It's R43 right now in the county, and they knew what they could do with the county. Do they have a say in what happens as they get annexed? Because they were talking about applying for an annexation to the city of Peoria. But I don't think that they were prepared for this already. What benefits will they get out of this annexation? And what participation can they have in it?
Thank you so much. Laureen Bodorf.
Hi, my name is Laureen Bodorf, and I live on North 128th Drive in the Mesquite District. We specifically chose Peoria because of its opportunity for growth, and I've never had any reason to doubt the competency or credibility of those who run the city. I've been following this case for months, and it totally makes sense to me to rezone the 460 acres from RU 43 to SR 43 to combine it with the rest of the group. So that's all I have on 3R. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard Dobson.
Mr. Chair and fellow council members, I want to make sure I'm on record as saying that I'm speaking on behalf of both of these amendments and approvals, and I am in favor of both of them. I want to start by saying that I appreciate the vision that you are about to take on and attempt to try to flag this ship as you have continued to flag this ship and run this city in such a way to make it the city that I thoroughly love to be in. As I told the council a few days ago, if you look back 50 years ago, you would see in the Arrowhead area nothing but orchards. If you turn north of Bell, it was just miles and miles of orchards, all named Arrowhead Ranch. It was the wisdom of those leaders at that time that caused that development to be stewarded in and look and be as popular and be the flagship of the Northwest Valley at this point for mixed-use parcels. We have another example is the Four Corners area, which the folks that are living closer out to Visconsia rely on heavily to come and visit, and would love to have some supporting businesses out there in their residential area that would be able to support them as well. There are those in Visconsia that wish that they would be a true bedroom community, and I'm not sure they totally understand the meaning of a bedroom community. I want to reiterate something else I told council the other day, and that is that I lived in a bedroom community in the Chicago suburbs, a bedroom community that had absolutely no businesses, no retail, no nothing. Our taxes, as high as Chicago's taxes are today still, we're still 1/3 higher than everyone else's to support the fact that we wanted to live in a bedroom community. I want to finish by saying thank you for having the vision and the support to approve this, and I really appreciate the time. Thank you very much. And I'll abstain from speaking at the next one. This is a support for both.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lori Bango?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Lori Bango. I have been a Peoria resident for over 20 years. I've lived in Willow, Ironwood, and Mesquite. Loved Visconsia and hope to return there someday. I'm also a real estate agent and love selling properties here in Peoria, and also chairman of the Legislative District 28 Republican Committee. So we have a really good handle on, we talk to thousands of our neighbors and really hear from them what they're thinking, and so I think that we can accurately kind of represent what a lot of the people that we talk to are thinking as well. So today I stand before you to discuss an exciting opportunity for the city of Peoria, the North Peoria Gateway in the West Valley. As we all know, Peoria is experiencing rapid growth, and with that growth comes tremendous demand for new businesses and economic development. As a realtor, we love growth because I like to tout where all the new development is and the new shopping and the new commercial. It's always exciting to highlight that when you're helping people find a new home. The initial investment in the Loop 303 has set a strong foundation and creates an expectation for our area to bring more jobs. That's what this is all about, is bringing more jobs to Peoria, keeping families here in Peoria, driving economic activity. So with this rapid growth, of course with TSMC, we find ourselves at really a pivotal moment here in Peoria. We have a chance to capitalize on these favorable developments by leveraging some of the most desirable land in our beautiful Northwest Peoria. The North Peoria Gateway is very strategically located on that Loop 303 corridor and provides unparalleled accessibility for businesses. And its proximity to Peoria's master plan community of Visconsia makes it the ideal destination for commercial growth. Continued collaboration with the Arizona State Land is essential. Right now, without unlocking the state trust land, our inventory for commercial opportunities is limited. The absence of available land hinders our ability to attract desirable businesses that our community desperately needs and deserves. The North Peoria Gateway encompasses the 1,600 acres of potential. And this project has been thoughtfully designed to incorporate commercial land uses that provide ample buffers from existing residential areas. This sorry, I'm tongue twisted tonight. This project is not just about land, it's about fulfilling the aspirations of our residents and fulfilling the vision of our mayor and council. By providing jobs closer to home and a diverse range of commercial retail and dining options, we can enhance the quality of life in North Peoria. Of course, 80% of our residents leave Peoria, and we want to bring those families back home so they have more time with their families. So let's embrace this opportunity to shape the future of our community. By supporting the North Peoria Gateway, we are investing in a vibrant, economically diverse Peoria, a place where businesses thrive, residents enjoy greater amenities, and our community continues to flourish. I'd like to thank the Planning and Zoning Commission, the council, and the staff for their hard work and dedication in making Peoria realize its full potential. Please approve Agenda Item 4R. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bango. All right, that is my last speaker request form, so I'll go ahead and close the public meeting. Any commissioners have any other comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion to, do you have a comment or a question?
Nope.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve item 3R, North Peoria Gateway NPG, initial zoning Z24-04?
Chair, I'll move to motion, recommend approval for item 3R, North Peoria Gateway initial zoning, case number Z24-04.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Commissioners, please vote. Commissioner Konkowski?
Commissioner Konkowski votes yes.
And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right. Next item on the regular agenda, item 4R, North Peoria Gateway NPG rezoning Z24-03. We have a new guest at the desk, so.
Commissioners, my name is Mike Faust, the Deputy City Manager. I got tapped because Mr. Jaquez was feeling a little under the weather. We had a late night on Tuesday, and so I get to quick swoop in for a few slides, and then I'll pass it off to the team. So tonight we're going to be talking about the actual rezoning case Z2403 for the North Peoria Gateway. And just as an introduction, a few slides here about state land. There seems to be a lot of confusion around the State Land Department and their role. So directly from their website, we pulled their mission to manage the state's land trust and to generate maximum revenues through prudent planning decisions for the beneficiaries. So specifically, the state land's purpose, these lands were granted at Arizona statehood, and there's actually two transactions happened, 1910, 1912, that created the trust for the specific and eventual sale to the benefit of the beneficiaries. And for example, the beneficiary being common schools, and I believe the predominant beneficiary of this land is common schools or K through 12 education. It's one of the methods by which Arizona funds the educational system. The State Land Department is specifically there to determine future auction of the property for development. So as we've talked about, whether the city moved forward with this work or not, it's still the state land's responsibility to bring this land to auction for its highest and best use. So it will happen whether or not it's within the city. So why not take advantage of it? Some key considerations that fit into the overall thinking and strategy that's played into this is that the State Land Department is the single largest landholder in the state. And you'll see in the second bullet down, the land in the city, effectively 75% of the remaining developable land in our city belongs to the State Land Trust. So part of our growth has to go through the State Land Department. One of the things we've heard a lot in preparation for this case and over the last 10 months is that please don't take away the open space that's there. State land is not open space. It is not. None of the work that you hear or any of the activities you hear from Cody relative to the zoning case will affect our land planning ordinances, our common space, the washways, all the hillside ordinances. All those things will remain in place and will be applicable in this zoning case. But this land was not intended, it's not a preserve, as we've heard some people say. It is intended, as we saw in the previous slide, to be auctioned at its highest and best use and value. And so for us, we see this as a great opportunity. It's a mutual benefit, not only for common schools, but for us as a city, because we're running out of that land, and we have residents that are desperately asking for additional retail and commercial applications, new employment opportunities, and in a growing part of the city that we are, more residential opportunities as well. From a city strategy standpoint, you'll hear us often say, we are not decision makers in a lot of the development things. It's our job to identify and remove barriers. And one of the largest barriers that has been in play, whether it's for this council or previous councils, has been the lack of available land to develop. And so that's why this strategy becomes so important for us. On Tuesday night, if you saw the city council, we presented the major general plan amendment, and this slide was in there where we specifically spoke to smart growth. And the amendment that was being made to the general plan, which is our guiding policy framework for this type of effort around this area, really trying to drive to the fact that we needed to partner with state land in order to bring North Peoria Gateway into the city. And so the state could move forward with auctions and bring land in to drive growth intelligently. There's been a lot of steps in this process, and I appreciated this slide that the team put together. The general plan amendment, which you had heard about several times, you voted on several weeks ago, went to city council on Tuesday night, passed 6-1, and ultimately that opened the avenue for these state land planning designations to bring 8,300 acres into the next level of the process. Relative to North Peoria Gateway, there are 4 major steps left in the process. So you're hearing about the rezoning case tonight. You see that on the far right. But flash forward a couple of weeks. Ultimately, what will come before council is a pre-annexation and development agreement, which really discusses the working relationship between the city and the state to bring this land to bear. You just voted on the annexation and initial zoning for the 460 acres. I'm sorry, on the initial zoning. The annexation will go to council on the 15th. The initial zoning will now go with a favorable recommendation from you folks. And now we're going to hear from Cody Gleason, who's going to walk us through the rezoning efforts specific to the 1,620 acres and its land uses with a recommendation to you this evening. Cody?
All right. Again, Cody Gleason, Planning Manager, City of Peoria Planning Department. Like I said, I think we should do these intros all the time. The zoning case that we're looking at now is for rezoning of the property. So we just talked about and went over the initial zoning that'll provide that translational zoning designation from the county rural 43 to SR 43. So when we look at rezoning, we're evaluating what is the translation from here. We're evaluating SR 43 to what's being proposed here, which is the North Peoria Gateway Planned Community District, or PCD if you don't want to say that whole mouthful. The purpose behind that is to create what sometimes is referred to as a zoning bank. All that really means is a master plan community. And we'll get into it in a couple of slides here, but you know, when you think of those larger communities, the Vistancias, the Saddlebacks, the Lake Pleasant Heights, those are all somewhat of a form of this, and we'll get into a little bit later, but it basically provides flexibility with context-sensitive approach to development in evaluating the future of that particular property. So to give you a little bit of information regarding the surroundings for this specific site, we are now looking at the entire 1,620 acres. And it's probably, you know, at least in my mind, I think a little bit better in square miles. We're looking at about 2.5 square miles of land and entitling that, that amount of land. The last time the city evaluated something close to that, I want to say it was probably a Laura Vita back in 2008, and that was 2 square miles. So this is really one of the largest zoning cases that has come before the city in decades now. So with that, we wanted to provide a little bit more depth to the discussion about what it is that we're evaluating and what are the context measures around it. To the north of the site, you'll see the label there on the screen identifying the Vistancia Commercial Core. That is the area that's within Vistancia. It's about 320 acres remaining. It used to be about 500, went through some amendments in the Vistancia PCD and reduced that down. But that area that you see bounded by El Mirage and Lone Mountain north of the subject site is that Vistancia Commercial Core. So it's intended for a variety of uses, you know, multifamily, industrial, business park industrial, that is. and various employment uses, really to provide a walkable community and an opportunity for a variety of uses that we don't have a lot of places within the city. So continuing clockwise for me and you on the screen, we'll go to east. East, you have the river course, and then at least for the southern portion of the site, the area, the 460 that we were just talking about, you have vacant land and or large lot, single family immediately adjacent to the subject property. South of the site, depending on which portion you're looking at, you have vacant land or the Dos Rios subdivision, which currently exists right along the Loop 303 within the county. West of this site, you have kind of a mix of uses. You have a utility substation, multifamily, single family, and then the existing trilogy at Vistancia Community. So to give a little bit broader context for this site, really as Deputy City Manager Faust had referenced, this is one of the few opportunities that we have left in the city to evaluate large context development opportunities for the future of Peoria. This is one of the few places where we have freeway frontage, where we can evaluate proposals going forward for the future. When you look at the Loop 101, that's essentially built out. We don't have freeway opportunity really left along the 101. The 303 is our economic opportunity and corridor going forward. So that we'll talk to a little bit more as we go through the site, but just wanted to give you a little bit of context there. From an existing development perspective, about 2 miles to the east of this site, you have the Four Corners, which most folks are familiar with. That is Lake Pleasant Town Center, Lake Pleasant Pavilions, Mountainside Crossing, and Lake Pleasant Crossing. I thought I was going to forget one of those, but I got all 4. So with this site, as we had talked about, the annexation effort that's going to council is that southern, let's call it stool leg of the property, that 460 acres. Now, north of the Jomax alignment, north of what you see indicated as the annexation area, that area is already within the city. It's been here since 2001 for a portion of it, and 2003 for the remainder. That 460 acres that we've talked about, that's going to council for action on October 15th. Again, in tandem with the initial zoning effort and subsequent to a recommendation from commission would all fall on that same agenda night. As referenced, the zoning district that exists on the property, SR 43 for that which is within the city, and then with commission's favorable recommendation for the translational zoning for the annexation area, all of it would go forward with SR 43 or suburban ranch zoning designations. My director would typically say that's a lot of words for this last piece here, but the reason why I think it's important to identify all of those land use designations on here is because really that's the picture of the existing land use on the site as it stands today. The general plan amendment that went forward to commission on Tuesday night really is just to identify that we have to proceed forward with a master plan for this site. It doesn't abandon all land use designations. Really what we're looking at tonight is a combination of a land use evaluation and a zoning district, because we're trying to capture really what the intent of that land use map was.
Can I just pause there real quick, Cody? And I'm sorry to jump in and just mention, Relative to that map, I think it's important because as the general plan has come through and there was a lot of feedback about the general plan amendment process overall, just to drive home that point, as Cody said, the land use map you'll see as this conversation goes on is nearly indistinguishable from what was in the general plan prior to the amendment went on. So what was adopted by voters in 2020 to what is being proposed inside of the rezoning, the land use follows through. Really what comes, so the land use designations is ultimately the same. It's really just the establishment of the standards that go along with them is in addition to, not really even a change from what was contemplated in that 2020 general plan that was adopted by voters.
And we'll get into a little bit more analysis and comparison of the land use designations as they were and what this would be transitioning to in a subsequent slide here as well. So as I had referenced, we have somewhat similar examples, not necessarily to the full scale of what we're looking at here, but for the communities that you see here on the screen, really a large swath of North Peoria, we have master plan communities, Vistancia, Saddleback Heights, and Lake Pleasant Heights. And all three of those, encompassing several square miles of the northern portion of Peoria, all contemplate master plans that evaluate what's often termed flexible zoning. So it allows a developer the opportunity within certain boundaries to evaluate, okay, if I have a range of X, Y, and Z here, I'm going to select X. But as we'll see when we go forward, we've evaluated several very important context parameters for those flexible zoning options so that we have protections for the existing communities that are abutting this proposed development in front of you. And again, just going back to that purpose and why we're evaluating this flexible zoning is state land wants to evaluate how they can best achieve their mission. And that mission is unlocking the highest value for the property that is under their control and ownership for those beneficiaries that they serve. So what does the city get out of this? Why does it benefit the city to do this? The 460 acres that we were talking about, the areas that were annexed within 2001 and 2003, they all could have gone through a county zoning process. That could have happened. But as I think Lori had mentioned, that wouldn't have the protections that we have in place within the city of Peoria. It wouldn't have our community design guidelines. It wouldn't have our general plan, intent and thoughtfulness. It would not have our parks and trails evaluation. It would simply be entitled in the county and move forward. So what we're getting out of this is an evaluation of continuity within our community. How do we continue those same elevated standards that we have for every other portion of Peoria? How do we continue those here? So that's really the focus of this effort is context-sensitive protections and how do we provide thoughtful development. To give a little bit of information as to the structure of what we're terming a zoning bank, or in this case, flexible zoning. Really, with 2.5 square miles, you're not gonna have 1-foot contours that are gonna tell you everything about the property. So the most accurate way that we can go about evaluating each component of this development is to allow for what we call secondary planning documents. Those are those master traffic impact analysis. It's the master parks and trails plan. It is the master drainage reports that you would typically evaluate, on a 10, 20, 50 acre site. When you're evaluating 1,620 acres, and you have the opportunity to evaluate different uses within there, you're not going to get it right if you try and do it all at once. You're going to have those thoughtful evaluations as you go through the process and as you have those more bite-sized components of the development. So I think a couple times the applicant team has referred to this image as the spaghetti bowl. What you see here is really the constraints that we're evaluating when we're looking at this property. On the southern end, you have an almost 1,000-foot wide power line corridor. You're not going to have development underneath that. The best you might be able to hope for is a parking lot. You have another power line corridor that's about 600 feet wide, traversing the site from southeast to northwest, about in the middle. That really bifurcates and limits the opportunities between and through parcels within that area. In addition to that, you have washes and river corridors that traverse the property from northwest to southeast. You have a canal delivering water to our community running basically from central east portion of the site up to central west up to the northeast portion of the site. So really constrained opportunities for connectivity and development within the site. And that's why those secondary planning documents are crucial as we go forward and as we know what those incremental pieces are so that we can have those thoughtful development patterns in light of really what ends up being very large burdens on the site. The other piece that you have here, the Loop 303, I don't know if anybody's tried to walk across a freeway lately, but it's a little tough to have connectivity between two different halves of a property that's bisected by a major freeway within a metropolitan area. So access is going to be a limiting factor because you can't just have a traffic signal on a traffic interchange. You have to have those safe traffic movements, and that's one of those further evaluation items that we'll have as we continue forward. So I wanted to give a little bit of information with respect to the context protections that I've referenced a couple times now. So here I wanted to give a couple of the properties that are adjacent to single-family uses that are existing today within the area. So you see parcel A, parcel FF, both of those either abut, in the case of A, the existing Trilogy community within Vistancia, or in the case of FF, the large lot single-family residential within the county. Those are limited to exclusively residential uses on those properties, and more specifically, single-family residential uses. Parcel P that you see kind of in the center of the screen, just north of Happy Valley there, that has limitations on it, but if you look at that site, it's a little constrained. It's butted up right against the freeway there. So you have limited opportunities for access and really functionality. That provides a little bit more flexibility in that it expands beyond just the single-family designation. It also allows for office as well as intermediate commercial. So here's that comparison slide that I was talking about with respect to the land use designations within the site. Really, you can see on the left, and I'm colorblind, so just run with me here if I guess wrong. On the employment uses and the mixed use and the urban residential, you can see all of those are focused along that 303 corridor. They're focusing the intensity away from that existing condition that exists along the boundaries of this site. And if you look over to the proposed land use map, that's exactly what you're seeing here. You're seeing an evaluation of the intensity and the uses that are intended to be pulled away from those boundary conditions and placed along the 303 so that you have more options for that freeway visibility, but you also have those context-sensitive protections that I was referencing. So I wanted to give you a little bit more site-specific information. Oftentimes when we have a development case coming before the commission, what we hear concerns about is height. Folks are often concerned about how height will impact their adjacent or nearby properties. So in this case, I wanted to give you some examples of what height could be on nearby parcels, particularly as it relates to Trilogy at Vistancia. So in this case, what's termed Parcel H, where you see the 48 there, that property is, I apologize, you probably can't see the H, but I promise it's under the 48. What you are looking at there is the height maximum for that development area. In alignment with the general plan designation, this site does allow commercial uses in a limited fashion, but it provides that maximum at 48 feet, which is in alignment with the intermediate commercial, the C2 zoning district that we have within the city. Aside from that height maximum, we also have existing conditions out there that are going to provide further protections for the existing development to the west. So El Mirage itself, 130 feet wide. On each side of El Mirage, you have a 15-foot wide street frontage landscaping area. So when you evaluate what that height is, you're looking at only 1 foot in height for every 3.3 feet that you extend out away from those existing uses. And again, those don't start until the setbacks kick in for the property itself. So it's beyond even what you see here on the screen. I wanted to give a couple examples of this, so forgive the repetitive nature of it, but I think it gives a good example of really those protections that we've tried to put in place for those existing conditions. So in this case, you have 900 feet just within the development area before you can go up to 60 feet in height. Again, that does not take into account the setbacks. So on the property that you see here, which is parcel G, that would allow for 60 feet in height only after you also achieve the setback. So again, you have 130 feet from El Mirage, you have 15 feet on both sides of El Mirage, then you have a 20-foot setback in addition to that 900 feet. So these are all those protections that we were referring to. In this case, even though the 60 feet goes a little bit higher, again, you're 900 feet away. So what does that equate to? You're only going up 1 foot for every 17 feet you are away from the property. And again, probably one of the better examples, we're looking at a 1/4 mile here before you can even go up to 56 feet for those uses that are within parcels B, F, L, and N. So that's trying to provide those additional protections. And if you were to look back to that constraints map that everyone has that enlarged copy of, if you look at N, the area adjacent to Coldwater Ranch, that's bifurcated by the power line corridor. You have washes running through the area that's immediately adjacent to Coldwater Ranch. So really the functional ability to utilize that western portion of N is extremely difficult and likely renders limited opportunities for that portion in particular. But again, this shows you even on property, you're a 1/4 mile away before you get to that 56 feet. The only caveat to that is for medical uses, if they were to occur within this area, they would allow up to 72 feet. and attached multifamily would allow up to 60 feet. But again, that's after all of those distances and the quarter mile that you see there. This is, I promise, the final one where you'll have to talk about height. Again, those same distance considerations, but in this case, at the closest point to a Trilogy resident, you'd be looking at 1,700 feet before you can go to 90 feet. And an important point to note with that is that there are two parameters of height. If you were to take a look at the building height maximums within the PCD, one is 56 feet for these areas, the other is 90. So even when you get to these areas, you would still have to step back further in order to achieve that full 90 feet. So once you get to that building setback, then you can go up 1 foot for every additional foot of setback. And that's after almost half a mile. So, we really tried to focus on how do we protect existing Peoria residences when we're evaluating these standards that provide as much flexibility as makes sense for the development of the property. So just wanted to give what we felt was a relevant development example for one of the properties within here. So right off of Happy Valley, within this development proposal, in between Vistancia and the freeway there, you'll see parcel Q. Really, that provides a great opportunity for a commercial and or mixed use development. But again, state land was integral in helping fashion standards for us that really focused on getting to the intent of the city's general plan and providing an opportunity for commercial uses that really the city of Peoria is striving for within our community. And so with that, they were willing to evaluate a constraint for parcel Q that limits residential on the property until such time as it is either vertical mixed use, meaning you would typically have non-residential uses on the first floor, and then above that you would have those residential uses. And or if you are 10 years past the approval date of this, or if there's 175,000 square feet of non-residential uses already in place on parcel Q. So really, I think that speaks to the partnership between the city of Peoria and state land in fashioning those development standards and the limitations within the property.
Cody, can I make one point before you leave that slide? Just go back one. One thing you'll look, and I think you have them in your packet, Exhibit 5 and Exhibit 4 from we have 4 and 5. I just want you to notice that the roadway alignment for Happy Valley and Vistancia that exists on the map that's depicted here doesn't physically exist today. And so if I'm a resident and hey, you're going to build 175,000 square feet of retail commercial space and there's traffic stacked already there, what gives? I just also want to note that in addition to the forethought that went into the use of this particular property, a ton of energy has been put into the realignment of that intersection as well. So part of the pre-annexation and development agreement, which we won't discuss here, but is already baked in, contemplates the realignment of that, and the city is committing to the realignment of that intersection as part of this overall development strategy. So if you look at the city's capital improvement program, there are 2 projects. There's an interim condition realignment to put in dual left turns from, I guess, Happy Valley to Happy Valley is the way to describe it, and Happy Valley north of Vistancia. That is currently in design and going to be constructed, I'll say, in the next 12 months to bring that at least to an acceptable standard because that intersection is failing. But what's contemplated here and what's already going through a design concept report is a complete realignment of that intersection to flatten it out and turn it into a more traditional 4-way intersection aligning 119th with Vistancia running north and then east-west transition for Happy Valley Road. So as Cody flips to the next slide, you'll clearly be able to see the depiction. But I think it speaks to not only has a high level of thought been put to the land use, but a high level of thought has been put to the infrastructure and with respect to the existing conditions and what is going to be necessary to bring this land to market.
All right, thank you. Now I get to skip a future slide.
Oh, my apologies.
No. Like I said, he's just here to make my job easier. One of the key items that we are always evaluating within the city of Peoria, because we want to have that thoughtful development, is the impact to the city's water portfolio. So where you see, I'll refer to it again as the stool leg, where that comes south, that is basically the boundary for the city of Peoria water service area. South of that is EPCOR, which is a private utility water service provider. North of that is City of Peoria Water Service Area. And why that's important is because, again, when evaluating these changes, we wanted to look at what does the general plan currently call for. And, that might be a striking number that you see there on the screen, the 13,000 units. But ultimately, that is what our current general plan designates within the area. And what we've sought to do with this proposal is evaluate how can we ensure that we're not exceeding what we've already contemplated for development in the future. And so with that, we've coordinated with State Land to evaluate those unit maximums within the development area. And those unit maximums are reflective of an overall maximum for the entire MPG area. Even though it's in the southern portions in EPCOR's water service area, we don't want to ignore the fact that we're in a desert. We want to evaluate thoughtful development everywhere within our city. So there is that overall maximum, but there's also that maximum within the city of Peoria water service area. And again, that's taken based on an evaluation of those current land use designations within the site. What these numbers mean is an accounting exercise. We went through and evaluated what are the land uses calling for from a unit perspective, and what can we expect and hold this development to as we go forward to ensure that we don't exceed our water allocation. What that means is we may not get there. That is an absolute maximum. But again, the reason why this constraints map is up here is you have a 1,000-foot corridor along the southern boundary that doesn't allow for any units. Continuing north of that in the west side of the stool leg, you have additional residential restrictions. So this is just to show you that this is the culmination of those accounting exercises and ensuring that we are being thoughtful about our development going forward. So to Mike's points Deputy City Manager Faust, his points with respect to the traffic improvements within the area, what you're looking at is a schedule of development improvements that will occur in regards to efforts that the city has already put in motion. So Mike had referenced the Happy Valley and Vistancia interim improvements. Those are already in progress and look to be done within, I believe, 2025 or 2026. Happy Valley and Vistancia, which carries a significant flow of traffic, will have those final improvements by 27, 28 timeframe. And then in addition to that, we're also coordinating with the State Land Department, ADOT, MAG, and Brandon can probably help me out with the other acronyms as far as the agencies that we're coordinating with for the El Mirage road improvements. And that's because it traverses several jurisdictions and it falls within several folks' areas. And we're always cognizant and coordinating with those agencies when we're going through these efforts. I apologize.
No, not, it's the staff's turn, sir.
My form signed up for agenda items.
Okay, but it's not open, it's not the public forum yet, sir. If you can just have a seat, and when the time comes, you'll be,
It's an agenda item.
we will be opening the public comment for this agenda item when the time is appropriate.
All I'm asking is that he's showing maps that I need.
Okay, we will be able to pull those back up when it's your time in the public comment. Thank you, sir.
Chair, members of the commission, the other item, I just wanted to go back for a second. I wanted to reference, as I had talked about with regard to the structure of the zoning bank, we will still be evaluating those future secondary documents, including specifically traffic impact analyses as we go forward. So once a development proposal is submitted, be a site plan or a preliminary plat, we would then evaluate the traffic specific to that area so that we can ensure that we're making those thoughtful decisions about what is necessary in order to provide appropriate levels of service within the development area and to those adjoining developments. So in keeping with the city's public notice procedure, notice was sent out to property owners within a quarter mile of the 2.5 square miles that occupy this property. A legal ad was published in the paper, and the site was posted in accordance with City of Peoria posting requirements. As a part of any rezoning case, we always require a neighborhood meeting so that the applicant provides the public an opportunity to speak at that meeting and really ask questions, find out more information, and provide any feedback that they might have during an early portion of the process. We usually look for those to occur subsequent to first review and prior to second submittal of the application. The reason for that is the most change you're gonna see from a staff comment standpoint is after that first review. So we want to ensure that the public is evaluating a proposal that incorporates the comments that staff already has on the development. This applicant team decided to go above and beyond that neighborhood meeting requirement. They chose to hold a second neighborhood meeting virtually. So the first one was held on May 15th. There was approximately 82 residents in attendance at that meeting. The subsequent second neighborhood meeting was held virtually, and there was about 29 residents in attendance at that meeting. The concerns identified from citizens at those meetings involved home values, concerns with respect to traffic patterns and flows within the area, the proposed uses, and school capacity in order to serve the property. So as a result of the public outreach efforts, the city did receive 10 inquiry emails. Those emails identified a range of questions with respect to the development proposal. Once those questions were answered, we didn't receive further communication from those individuals. So staff received emails, we provided information, including the application materials to them, and we did not hear back. We received 23 letters of opposition in total. Some additional letters were provided to the commission in the packets that you have before you that were received subsequent to the printing of the report. And then there were 2 letters of support that we received. And again, those 2 items are within the packet that you have in front of you. For school district information, this is located within Peoria Unified School District. So the students for this property, based on current school boundaries, would attend Vistancia, Lake Pleasant Heights, and Zuni Hills elementary schools. They would attend Liberty High School. As with any application, we have forwarded this to the Peoria Unified School District in order to include them in our review process. We did not receive comment from the school district with regard to this application. As a result, staff finds that the proposal is in alignment with the City of Peoria General Plan designation as of Tuesday night for the Arizona State Land Department special use category. But again, looking back to those land use designations that were in existence prior to Tuesday night, this again follows that development pattern and the intent that was contemplated previously within the general plan that was in existence prior to that category. In addition to that, the proposal seeks to address several goals and policies within the City of Peoria's general plan. You'll find those in the staff report within your packet. But those relate to a myriad of issues ranging from balance of land use, economic opportunities within the city, and a balance of housing options. With that, staff would recommend that Planning Commission recommend to City Council approval of case Z24-03, subject to the conditions of approval that are in your amended packet that you received this evening. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Great, thank you, Mr. Gleason. Before we start with commissioner comments, I just want to thank staff. I know this project and this vision has taken endless hours and days and nights and weekends. I just appreciate the commitment that you guys have for this city. I know it's a lot of work. Sometimes it can be thankless, but just from me as a Peoria, longtime Peoria resident, I'm appreciative of it sincerely. So thank you. Any commissioners have any questions for staff before we bring the applicant up? Vice Chair Waitman-Powell.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to thank Mr. Gleason, his time. This was a very in-depth overview as well as presentation, and I think that it was necessary to go over every single outcome and every single concern. And I think it is important that we really talk about the overarching goal and the city's general plan and where we want to go, right, as Peoria grows. So for me, I'm looking forward to hear from the applicant, but it just seems like this is a good progression to really support the city's growth, and it's necessary. So looking forward to hearing from the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Cottrell?
Thank you. I had, first is just a comment, and second is a question. When I got this package and the final exhibit, the fancy one that you're showing there, and hearing all of the previous discussions we've had in different cases with higher density, multifamily, everything, I went and looked real hard in a lot of detail at every one of your little hard to distinguish color-coded stripes there to see where there might be some transition zones that aren't taken care of. And to your credit, I didn't find any. So you guys did an excellent job of transitioning from some of these lower density areas with the transition before you reach the multifamily, the higher densities, and yet you still have them, which is appropriate. So my hat's off to you. That's difficult to do. The second is more of the question on these little blue arrows that are on that exhibit for access points. I don't know if you can pull that display back up, that one on the right. The question is, how hard are those access points held? Because if I put on my developer hat on some of these, an example, you can't zoom in there, but I'm zoomed in here. Some of these commercial areas, Area BB accessing Joe Max, or Area E accessing Joe Max, I know that these developers, when they come in, they're going to immediately turn around and ask you to have an access point there, because if you've got a grocery store or a gas station or something, you're going to want that second point of access. And so have you thought about that? Is there reasoning that you left the little blue arrow off of those sides, or what's your thought process there?
Chairman, Commissioner Contrell, really, those are contemplated access points. Those have not been evaluated. Those will be evaluated as we go forward within those secondary planning documents. So within the TIAs that we'll see for each development unit or, components of those development units, we're going to evaluate those access points. And that may not be those specific locations, but it's simply denoting possible contemplation of access in those areas.
But they would not be restricted by zoning from an access point. They could still request it in that, and it's not like they would have to revise this map or anything at that point.
Chairman, Commissioner Cottrell, we have to provide access to developable land within the city. So with that, in those secondary planning documents, we'll evaluate the most sensible way to provide that access. It wouldn't limit them to necessarily, if you see one blue arrow on a parcel, it doesn't mean they can only have one access there. It simply means that that's a possible point that we may see access in the future.
Thank you.
And that's why we enjoy having a civil engineer on the commission. So thank you so much. Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm just going to concur. I appreciate the thoughtful work that has gone into this, and to use your word, Cody, the continuity it provides with ensuring compatibility with the surrounding area. And particularly the employment opportunities excites me. I can't imagine living in this area and commuting downtown to Phoenix. I do that from South Peoria, and it's an hour. I can't even imagine how excited these folks are going to be when they don't have to make the commute I make every morning. It's miserable. So with that aside, just a couple of clarifying questions for you. You had the power line corridor indicated on the utility corridor map. I don't know if we can pull that up, but can you describe, is that an existing power lines, or are those a corridor reserved for future high voltage power lines?
Let me
I'm not as familiar with that area as other areas.
Let me see if I can get to that constraints map. So those two power line corridors that you see, the one on the south and the one kind of running through the center west of the property, those exist today.
There are power lines there now, okay.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Second question I had is just to help me visualize, when we're talking about the non-residential height limits on the west side near Vistancia, you had mentioned a maximum of 48 feet, I think it was. Can you put that in context for me, what a 48, maybe comparing that to what a two-story house is, or to give me just help me visualize that a little bit if you could.
Absolutely. Chair, Commissioner Nelson. So a two-story house, you're typically looking at 30 feet. I shouldn't say all, I haven't combed through every parcel in the city, but every residential district that I can think of in the city has a residential height limitation of 30 feet. So that would allow for those two-story units. So 48 feet, you're looking at 1.5 houses.
That makes sense. Thank you for that. Last question I had was, I was looking at the reasons that some residents had opposed this or had concerns, and I share one of those, and that's water security. I think it's a topic we need to be talking about more often. You mentioned maybe as far as the access points, there's going to be some secondary planning documents, I think is how you put it. Is water planning part of that piece as well?
So, Chair, Commissioner Nelson, I wouldn't say water is a secondary planning document. It's almost like our first planning document because you can't really build without water. So there is always an evaluation of water when we're looking at these. That's why at the outset, instead of leaving it to a secondary planning document, we wanted to set these maximums ahead of time to get ahead of this and ensure we have a secure water portfolio going forward. And this in no way puts that in danger.
Okay, I appreciate that. That's all I had. Thank you, Chair.
Great question, thank you. Commissioner Villaseñor.
Thank you, Chairman Feider. It's really just a comment. There's been a lot of terms used repeatedly throughout the evening, both by staff and the audience, the constituents, that I appreciate. And one was thoughtful. And I do want to commend staff and our city leadership on this exercise. It's no small task, and it does really feel like there's been a very thoughtful and patient approach to what we're doing. On that note, the lady in the audience who had asked the very specific question, you know, what's in this? I think it was your daughter that is in the county. What's the benefit? And I think that word thoughtful is what keeps resonating, because that question hit me, you know, okay, well, what is it in it for someone who's currently in the county? And it is that continuity of land use. And I would encourage people to drive through some of the county lands if you would like to see what non-continuity looks like. So I would say, you know, I would encourage your daughter to have a conversation with staff so she can understand the benefits when it comes to evaluation of open space and trails and buffers. As Mr. Gleason did point out, I think in the city there are incredible protections built in place, and I'm you know, just want to say that that's probably the best answer there, but there's probably more detail that maybe your daughter or other residents might want. So thoughtful is one word. The other word, obviously, is opportunity. And I really do want to just commend our leadership, Mayor Beck and Councilmember John Edwards, for having the vision to see this opportunity. I think that's first, but also the leadership to act on it. I live here in Peoria and I love it. I don't ever see myself really leaving, but I do want to see us to be able to live, work, and play in this community. Someone made the comment about an hour drive. I look forward to more retail and entertainment options, more housing options, diversity in housing, all of it. It will continue to make us even greater than we are now. But if we don't act, we'll become stagnant. And it's just moments like this that I really do appreciate our leadership, not only our staff, but also our elected officials that saw this opportunity and acted on it. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Myers?
Yeah, since I'm the only one that hasn't spoke, I just wanted to echo everything that everybody said.
For the record, you have the longest commute of anybody.
Thank you. As a resident in the area we're discussing, I sincerely appreciate the effort. I know this is no small task. I echo my fellow commissioners and chair up here, not only to you, staff, but to council and our mayor for having the vision, the mindset, and putting the work behind all of this. I'm very, very excited. So thank you all very much.
All right. Is the applicant here? Do they wish to speak? You can just state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, very happy to be back before you again this evening. My name is Carolyn Oberholzer. I'm with the law firm of Bergen, Frakes, Smalley and Oberholzer, 4343 East Camelback in Phoenix. And I cannot also thank the city's team enough for all of the effort put into this. Midnight emails were not unusual. We got one from Cody this week. That was not the first. I know it won't be the last. This has been a very comprehensive process. And for the State Land Department, they manage 9.2 million acres in the state. And they are a general fund agency. They don't participate in the revenues that are derived from the auctions and the leases. They get their funding from the legislature, and whatever they get, they have to make do with over 9.2 million acres. So the partnership with the city to bring this land into a robust and thoughtful zoning case that we have worked on tirelessly with them for, at this point, a couple of years. It's just fundamental to our ability to have that smart growth and plan for the future in a location as important as this that enjoys so much freeway frontage, but also has so many constraints. And so that everybody took the time to really understand the constraints and recognize the opportunities for compatibility and transitions, and we worked through all of the issues. And we did have a lot of engagement with the community at the first neighborhood meeting. The reason why we went to a virtual meeting for the second was that we had a standing room only packed house. And I wanted to make sure that we didn't have an issue where somebody couldn't comfortably be in the room for as long as was necessary. something that was also very important to us is knowing that when we started the meeting, people were agitated. And when they left the meeting, they were less agitated. And I think that shows in the attendance tonight. Yes, you've had a volume of emails, but in relation to your population, it's a very small fraction. And the community has been asking thoughtful questions themselves, and they've been very engaged and receptive to our feedback. There's been lots of emails going back and forth between all of us. So I just want to echo the thanks. I don't have a presentation to supplement because Cody really, and Lori and Mike did a fabulous job presenting the case. I do have a whole presentation. I'm happy to visit other slides if whatever the commission pleases this evening. I'll just end with to the question from the woman whose granddaughter lives in that area. I know that well. I know exactly that sale she's talking about. I saw it. So one of the things that I think hasn't maybe been touched on is just that it is state trust land also means that it is not a revenue generating piece of property for the city. It generates revenue only for the beneficiaries while it's leased or it is sold, after it is sold. But in the meantime, it's not generating anything for the city. And so when those lands go to auction and are sold, then they become taxed property within the city, helping to support the city's services. And of course, the events that happen on them are also often taxable events as well, beyond the construction phase in the form of sales tax generation. So it benefits the community to make these beachfront, freeway fronting properties revenue generating to the greatest extent possible, and I believe that this package will allow the flexibility and the control to do that in the way that Peoria does things, which is always at a very high level of design and quality aesthetic with an eye towards trails and open space and view sheds as well. So with that, I'll stop talking. I would be happy to answer questions. The land department team, Karen Dada, Rhonda Buss are here, as well as our planner from RVI, and with that, we're happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Commission have any questions for the applicant? If not, we'll open the public comment. Have several speaker request forms here. If you spoke on the prior case and don't wish to speak again, and I call your name, just let me know. We'll start with Patricia Walsh. You can just state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
My name is Patricia Walsh. I live in Trilogy at Vistancia. My address is 12347 West Rosewood. I am adjacent, parallel actually, to El Mirage, and just south of the Blue Sky Gate. So the development of this property, I did attend the meetings, the one that was virtual also. And I was pleased to see that there were some changes addressing some of the concerns that we did have. I mean, I think in talking about the magnitude of this property, besides the 620 acres and 2.5 square miles, there are 33 parcels within this area. And it can allow up to 13,989 residential units. It's massive, it's large, as has been previously stated. I believe that smart growth is the direction that the council has taken, and it was inevitable based on the amount of land available in this area that would be developed. And I agree that it should be developed, but it should be developed with concerns of the community. And one of the things with the PCD that there are certain sections within that within the PCD as far as the intent, also about the property development standards, also some of the findings, but most of all in section 21612, as far as when this is put forward to us as a community. There will be some public comments, and there will be an understanding of how the use would be done and how these parcels, these 33 parcels, will be developed. Can some of these parcels be combined? Will there be amendments, and a major amendment? Will it be presented to the community? So can some of these parcels be combined to create more acreage in order for a developer to develop something larger than had been originally proposed. So it would be really important for when this begins to be master planned and rolled out, that some of these restrictions will be communicated, and also that we have an understanding of what a PCD is and what can be done as far as public hearings, and what are some of the determinations and authorities that can just be changes made by planning without being presented to the community. And I want to thank you all for allowing me to speak, and I'm looking forward to working with the commission to see how this area develops.
Thank you, Ms. Walsh. Ed Molina.
Good evening. Name's Ed Molina. I live at 8686 West Via Lindo Drive in North Peoria. First of all, I want to express my appreciation to the planning staff and all the efforts that you've gone to basically refine what was already existing to the point where we're getting to the actual implementation of this economic engine that we've been talking about for a long time. Now, the economic engine is both not only commercial, industrial, but also includes a residential. And from the zoning that you've outlined here, all of those are covered in very, very detailed fashion. And I certainly appreciate the efforts that the entire staff has gone through. And I just want to say that this is not something that happened over the last 2, 5, 10, even 20 years. As a longtime Peoria resident, I remember discussions about developing of that area by mayors going back to Mayor Edmund Tang, Ron Travers. Oh, Ron Travers used to have a house right across the street from City Hall. But anyway, this has been ongoing for many, many decades. And to be able to see the culmination, or what I hope to soon be the culmination of their visions is, I can't tell you how pleased I am to see that. And so again, I just want to express my gratitude and thank you all for that.
Thank you, Mr. Molina. Paul Smith? You can state your name and address for the record.
Thanks for reminding me. Paul Smith, 29974 North 103rd Place, here in Trilogy. Basically, I think you guys did a great job. You did a lot of work, and I appreciate it. The thing that gets me, though, and which I really have a problem with, is your flexible zoning or multi-use, because, like Pat said, we really don't know how it's going to end up. There could be changes. As a matter of fact, when I first looked at your land use zoning, I didn't see any industry. And yet this gentleman here brought up parcel Q with industry. Wow, where was that? I couldn't understand these documents. So, you know, my question is, if areas are classified one way with a mixed use, there's a few of them in the drawing, how easy to change to another classification? Is any community input required and effective at all? How does a mixed-use land in a PAD or PCD foster a continuous harmonious area, which means anything goes within that area, within the confines of the zoning? A few simple meetings and that area is reclassified and rezoned, land use reclassified. Another thing, this gentleman was talking about the heights. I don't know, but I was reading somewhere that the heights, a company can go over those heights if you have a boom or you have a crane of some sorts. So I don't know if his heights agreed with that. It was just a question because there's so much in this stuff. And another thing, you were talking about water units, and then Pat was talking 13,989. I was thinking, like somehow you equate a business, those are homes. Okay, I now figured that out, that they're homes. Well, how much does a business take in? We know Amcor pulls in 1 million gallons, I think it's a day, and returns 800,000 and only uses 200,000. Okay, that's cool. I mean, but that tells me something. Where these units, I want to see water units. How much is a factory? How much is a business? How much do they use? Not just residents. So, I mean, it's not that I'm against any of what you guys are doing, but I feel more comfortable when I see something I can understand. Your documents, I'm an electrical engineer. I have a hard time reading these things, because your words are all over the place, your designation. I can do it. It does take a little time. So, yes, I'm a little frustrated because of how complex it could be. I do appreciate what you do, and I think this was great. I think everybody saw this coming. But I wish you make it easier for us.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Laureen Bodorf.
Hi, my name is Laureen Bodorf, and I live on North 128th Drive in the Mesquite District. Peoria has identified the importance of this corridor a long time ago, so it's important that these areas be master planned in alignment with Peoria's design standards. I appreciate that the city has partnered with State Land Department working towards an entitlement that yields mutual benefit. I also really like the concept of a zoning bank and how it was explained in the agenda items. Areas like Scottsdale, Queen Creek, and Phoenix, and a hybrid type of zoning bank used in Vistancia, Lake Pleasant Heights, and Saddleback Heights. So this is not a new concept. The irregular shapes and geographical limitations do make this area far more suitable for mixed use than residential. And I don't know about some of the people opposed to it, but I don't really want to live under electrical lines. I encourage you to vote to approve the rezoning case Z2403, which will rezone the area from SR 43 to the North Peoria Gateway PCD. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Bodorf. Homer Landerth.
Thank you. I'm Homer Landreth. I live at Westbrook Village on Sierra Pinta Drive. I've been there for years. I'm a 20-year veteran of working on airplanes in the Air Force, and I'm an instructor pilot. I've been that way for about 30 or 40 years. And I'm a designated FAA inspector. The problem that bothers me is, just like tonight, we've gone through all this, nobody's ever said the word airport. Now, there's great effort. People don't want an airport. It's starting to lose ground with the administration. But we have he's gone. Oh, there he is. He's going to egg my house tonight because we've had discussions. He does have a contract out for site selection. My feeling is that we've got enough talent around here and we've got enough smarts around here that we know a lot more about where we want that airport if we have to have an airport. We know a lot more about where that airport ought to be. Young lady is in real estate. She wants to know if she's selling houses how high the airplanes are going to be flying over the houses. And gentleman over here that's selling the trust land, he wants to make sure that he knows that there's not going to be a 20,000-gallon tank of JP7 sitting next to the property that he's trying to sell. So I think that we should stand back and take a little thought and a little bit more involvement of our people in the site selection of the airport, as opposed to handing it off to the contractor, the Kaufman people, to come back and tell us what they want. But however, I would like to point out that from what I've heard about the density of housing, the height of housing, the access of business, I totally support the fact, and it's also within the State Board of Transportation, when they evaluate the fact that we want to build an airport, if we do, they're the ones that they're the one that have to be pleased, and we're the ones that have to satisfy them. I don't believe we can do it, and the site selection, or the site rumor, is the old airport at the old glider port,
Thank you, Mr. Landreth.
and that's rejected.
Thank you.
Anyway, we
Thank you
have
so
no
much for your,
grounds
thanks so
to
much for your time.
authenticate an airport, and I think we ought to take that position that we do not have the qualifications or the interest.
Mr. Landreth, your
in an
3 minutes
airport.
is up. Thank you so much. Appreciate your commitment to
Well,
the city.
Thank you.
Lori Bango?
Good evening once again. I wasn't going to speak again, but I just wanted to
Welcome back.
share, thank you. I just wanted to share something I had written down before you shared what you shared. I said, have you ever driven through a county island? Within the boundaries of Peoria, you can absolutely tell what is county and what is Peoria. And I just wanted to tell a really quick story about our church in 2000, an old church that I used to go to in 2012, around 2012, bought a piece of land over there behind the QT off of like 115th Avenue and Happy Valley. When they bought it, there was nothing out there, and they were going to build a church there. It was going to be high up on the hill. It's part of the county island, and of course, we had to raise the money in order to build the church, and that was going to take many, many years. And lo and behold, it was a shock to everyone who had given a lot of money toward this building fund and everything, that all of a sudden this giant storage unit starts being built right next to, would have completely covered up the church. And at that point, the church they ended up selling the property because it was no longer a desirable location. And those are the kind of things that we have to keep in mind. And so anytime that we can bring in land, of course, for tax revenue as well, into the city of Peoria. Some things that we hear a lot during election season is all of these Peoria residents who have a Peoria address, they're all pretty upset they can't vote in Peoria elections, city elections, and that sort of thing. So I'm always in favor of bringing in more land, of course, into Peoria and having it be master planned and thoughtful and strategic. So I think I've already shared my support of agenda item 4R, but I would just like to, again, encourage you to vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Jacobs?
Hello. My name is Robert Jacobs. I live in Trilogy, 12977 West Cocopelli here in Peoria. I attended the city council meeting a couple nights ago and was very happy with the outcome. A supermajority vote, 6-1, approving the strategic amendments to the general plan. So here we are tonight. The next step being to approve the rezoning effort for the first area of development, the North Peoria Gateway. I strongly support item 4R and all that we've seen here this evening. Rezoning the NPG will contribute significantly to the creation of local jobs in the Mesquite District, as well as secure long-term revenue for the entire city, not just Vistancia, all the while ensuring future development is both smart and cohesive, not fragmented, which would likely occur if the rezoning was to be denied. Our city leaders and staff are amazingly talented, and I appreciate the transparency we've seen through this entire process by the Deputy City Manager, Mike Faust, Planning Director Chris Hawkes, the Mayor, and the City Council. Anyone attending the meeting 2 nights ago or has watched a video by now finally understands once and for all that the land we refer to as MPG is owned by the state of Arizona. It must and will be sold. Vistancia residents now understand that none of the acreage is state preserve and it cannot remain undeveloped. This being in accordance with things where our beloved state constitution talk about. Moving forward, my sincere hope is that we come together as a community and a city and anticipate the exciting new chapter that lies ahead of us regarding the smart growth of our fine city, Peoria. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobs. Peggy Jacobs?
Peggy Jacobs. I live at 12977 West Cocopelli Drive in Peoria, Trilogy. I would like to express my support for the rezoning with the North Peoria Gateway, item 4R. This rezoning of the state land would activate and use the land to the highest and best use, in my opinion. It supports what the people wanted when they voted the mayor back in, with one of his focuses being economic development. The negative to not voting for the rezoning is to allow the state to use the land in ways that wouldn't result in what we would like, a planned, well-thought-out and designed community and commercial areas. I don't understand why anybody would think any differently. The positive for approving the rezoning is to allow for this acreage in Peoria to serve the people best. Many have expressed their wants for varied types of restaurants and other businesses. Also of interest for many Peoria residents is their, as has been alluded to, not giving up their precious time traveling to distant locations in surrounding areas of Phoenix, spending their time and money for such things as eating out, shopping, and recreating in other cities. In other words, giving the revenue to other cities because they have to leave our city. So with more businesses coming, more job opportunities also come for people to spend their time with their families and friends. I play pickleball and tennis in the all-ages community of Vistancia, so I meet people from all different ages, many who are still working. I spoke with 3 specifically who said they would love to not have to spend 2 hours on the freeway every day and be more with their families. Many of those family members spend the majority of their time away from each other during the work week. An intentional plan will create a cohesive business plan, giving the city more revenue, as well as living and recreational options, versus what the state will do with the same land. I am a huge proponent and ask that you vote yes for the item 4R on the agenda.
Thank you. Corky Haynes?
First of all, I want to start to say I am in favor of this rezoning proposal. So I was driving down here tonight. I'm thinking, what would Trump do if he was in charge of developing the North Peoria Gateway? Well, this I do know. It would be beautiful and first class and truly a scenic and impressive gateway to the north of our city, which is beautiful. The further north you go, the more beautiful the landscape becomes. So I can't wait to see what will be in the plans, and I truly hope it fits into the vision I kind of see it being. One concern I had was a representative, I believe it was Vestar with Desert Ridge, is it Vestar? He talked Tuesday about opportunities for things like Desert Ridge, which is exciting. However, when I go to Desert Ridge, it's like a jungle. I mean, it is congested, it's dense. It's not what I hope to see here in Peoria. So I felt much better. Is it Mr. Gleason? Was that your name? Okay. When you did state that we would have open spaces and trails and hopefully beautiful landscaping and architecture that stands the test of time. 20 years ago, my parents bought into Trilogy, sight unseen. There were no amenities. And of course, when it developed, we were just thrilled because it was something way beyond what we ever expected to see and be a part of. And I tell my mom, I pinch myself, can you believe you're living in a place like this? Whoever dreamed? Because it does stand the test of time. It had a vision, and almost anybody I talked to who has moved in there said they were drawn into it just through the entrance. They just wanted to be there. So I don't know if you give credit to, is it Mark Hammond or whoever designed it, but they had a vision, and I'm hoping that same vision carries throughout this North Gateway area. I have 5 generations living there. Some of my grandchildren who have married looked at other sections of the city, and even though it's going to cost them a little bit more money to live there in that whole area, they still chose to do it, and they're going to make it happen. So my mother's 95, still living there in Trilogy, and I now have a great-granddaughter who's a year old, but I'm sure she's going to grow up and want to live there just like my grandkids are, my kids are, the cousins. It's unbelievable. We kind of call it the Kelly compound often because we all chose to live there because it's just a beautiful place to live. So I just hope and pray that this whole design and master planning carries through with that same concept, which sounds like it's going to.
Thank you,
So
Ms. Haynes.
thank you.
Thank you. Last but not least, Jim Keller. No.
My name is Jim Keller. I lived in Peoria 32 years. My qualifications here to address you and the members here of your commission. I have been in the business world for 42 years, working for a $2 billion manufacturing company. I have seen opportunities come and go like you wouldn't believe. And I have seen opportunities that have made the company grow to a $2 billion company. So I know what opportunities mean. They either mean you go forward or you go backwards. It doesn't stay the same. And my position is to recommend you go forward. Listening to all the presentations to here today, every base has been covered more and more excellently. So there doesn't seem to be any reason why this cannot move forward in a good zoning map as it's been laid out here. Yes, there's going to be some resistance. There's always some resistance. But resistance does not equal progress. And the city of Peoria has a reputation of being a very, very solid city, well-planned, well-developed, well-deserved, with lots of good residents. I'm one of the residents that favors this, and I recommend you go forward with the zoning plan. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I will close the public hearing. One quick comment, Mr. Faust, I apologize for that comment that was directed at you, suggesting you would be egging somebody's home. You're a grown-up and a professional, so apologize you had to deal with that. A question for you that came up was, there's no discussion of an airport. Is that because there's no airport planned in this area, this piece?
Mr. Chair, thanks for the question. No, there is no airport planned in North Peoria Gateway.
Okay. Thank you. Any commissioners have any additional comments, questions? Yeah, no, I got it. Vice Chair Waitman Powell.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to all of our residents for their comments and just coming here, right, on spending your time. I know my husband is at home watching football, right? He stepped in here for a second and said, honey, the game is on. So I really just appreciate everybody coming by and really stressing, right? But one word that stuck with me is opportunity. And I think that all of us, right, that live here, Peoria residents, are aligned on one thing, which is this city progressing. Progression is the key, right? And for us to progress, we can't stand still. The city is growing, right? We have to build. We have to take this economic opportunity that we have right now, and we have to seize that opportunity. Because I think it was one person that said, opportunities, they don't come by often. So I just really want to stress a few things why I personally am in support for this rezoning. I think we really have to look at the fact that this land is going to get developed no matter what, and we now get to choose. Yes, we do want to take an economic opportunity as a city and bring that tax revenue in. It makes no sense, right? It's just common sense. And I think that as we grow and as this is the start of something new to come to Peoria, I really believe that it will, boost employment diversification, and it will boost the growth in the city so we can have more, right? I want these things, right? If I tell my husband, I just wish we had a wine bar, another one closer. These things I want, but I understand for that our city has to grow and we have to take some risk. So I appreciate everyone's comments, but I think that we have to think about progression, the economic opportunity that we have, and that's for me as a young professional. I take that drive to Phoenix every single day, and I'm a mom of 2, right, and a wife. So I come home, still cook dinner, and do all these things. So yes, we want to work, play, and live in Peoria. And this right here is the start to that. And we have to send a message that if we want that city to be the city where we work, play, live in, and I don't have to drive all the way back to Peoria before I can possibly maybe have a glass of wine with my girlfriends, right? And say, because I'm that way, I want to spend it in my city. We have to develop. So we have to think about that, and we have to have a mindset of growth so that we can all have these amenities and that quality of life that all of us love here in Peoria, and the quality of life that we want and that we see in the future. So I just thank staff for their presentation, but let's just think about progressing this city in a way that speaks to all of us as residents. Thank you.
Commissioner Konkowski, do you have any comments or questions at all?
I've lived in the city for a long time myself. Born and raised in Arizona, graduated from Peoria High School. The development up north is outstanding. I'm in full support of the project and looking forward to what that area of town becomes. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Seeing no further comments or questions, do I have a motion to approve item?
Chairman Fighter, I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of Z24-03, subject to the conditions of the amended Exhibit 1.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Commissioners, please vote. Commissioner Konkowski, your vote, please.
Commissioner Konkowski votes yes.
And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. All right, that's the last item on the public agenda. We will do a call to the public for non-agenda items. I don't have any speaker request forms unless I missed one. Of anyone that would like to speak on a non-agenda item, seeing none, we will move to item 5R, reports from staff.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, the next commission meeting, we will see you back here October 3rd. We look forward to having a productive conversation with you. If you had the opportunity, I would invite you, if you haven't done so already, please review the September 17th council meeting. We're going to be talking about a similar item on October 3rd. So that presentation is coming before you. Upcoming other meetings, October 17th, we have a good amount of business to do on that particular meeting. Talking about the code amendments coming in front of you, that's going to be the first introduction of that conversation. The next two meetings that you see in November, the weather starts to cool off and everybody's schedules get busy. So those 2 items are starred. You will see an email coming out from Della asking about your attendance, both probably in November and December. We may move around and consolidate because we want to be respectful of everybody's schedule in that regard. So with that, that's all I have. Thank you.
Any reports from the commission that anybody would like to make? No, seeing none, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.